Yes.
But the point is valid, that they are paying through their nose anyway.
No, and they are paying that as a.
That's another thing. Even without TOU, they're paying very well.
Yeah, the problem is they are paying like at night time 7 rupees and at daytime 9 rupees. So it
No,
doesn't
it's not
matter.
like that.
You are not going to change your
Just
behavior.
in night time, they are paying around 4 rupees.
Uh-huh.
Daytime, they are paying out 10 rupees.
Okay, so that's
try to understand
that's a
that.
reasonable difference.
It is a cost subsidy. Right?
Yes.
Again, the cost subsidy is being done by the distribution license. That's
Sure.
why the rates are so high. That's what I'm
Sure.
saying. Go to the district.
I'll add one sentence and then Martin gets. I've got to move to the third topic here. If you don't have a time of use, what we have found, at least 1:3 between the peak and the valley, there is not much arbitrage opportunity or incentive that they can do meaningfully with technology. Like in Ontario, for example, we have been 1:2 for dogs years. Even though we have changed the tariff every 2 years to meet market facing, which is one of the benefits of TOU, it's easily changeable. But there's not been much of a change because the day to night is only 1:2. If you we can easily bring energy storage into the house now that you can get it. It's if you just make it 1:3 maybe, right? So that is one. But I'll agree. That's what I'm saying. So one. Correct. I agree. But
If its electricity bill is 2% of the monthly, this thing that's different, and for a country where it is 15%.
I agree. I'm just saying. Okay. Correct.
That will depend on the concerned country, on the sensitivity of price to that thing in that particular country. It will be different from country to country.
But he may still have a point. Yeah, but his point may still be valid that 1:1.3 may never get you anywhere.
So this is a matter of how much the price difference should be set is another subject by itself.
Okay.
But it's in general time of use is good. But what price difference should be there be? The study has to be done on what will make consumers change.
Martin, very quick. I've got to move to the third.
The
5:30 आपको चाहिए. You are the balancer.
I have to go to 60 kilometers from here. I'm driving myself.
मैं पहले से माफी चाहता हूँ. Okay, wait. Martin.
Looking at the price differential, what is our objective? When I look at India moving rapidly towards more renewable penetration, having that kind of capability to influence demand, I think, is the key point. And having a fixed differential and fixed times, for me, is no longer, when you look at the duck curve, we will have oversupply at noontime, we have got suddenly wind surge, and then we are suddenly short. So every 3 hours, we have either prices at zero or prices at extremes. So having that kind of part will be extremely hard to communicate to the consumer, but I think you need to be able to reflect the scarcity of power, number one. Number two is, I would not underestimate in India, when you look at the paper, what's the exchange rate, what's the stock market doing, I would say 90% of people are very financially smart. So don't treat them like idiots and say, okay, this is too difficult to explain. We say like, oh, because of Commonwealth Games, we had PPAs. We took them, and this is part of the cost. And see, okay, how long is this PPA going to last? And then if you charge them for the next 20 years, they say, wait. The PPA was only 5 years. Somebody's cheating. But that kind of being proactively communicating and preparing for the influx of renewables.
Thanks. The last one is a tough subject. I raised it in the previous session. And very, very quick, poignant answers. Is energy efficiency. There was a mention that we did LED energy efficiency.
What about it?
What not about it? The question is India or Sri Lanka tackling energy efficiency as a core part of its entire, to get the growth level down on consumption? Okay, but you've answered it, right? So that is because it seems to be that it's an area that people sometimes accept. Some people very unwillingly come and say, yeah, I see value, but I don't buy it. Or some people say it's just too expensive, right? So I'm going to start with you.
So on energy efficiency, again, we have two views. Again, at large scale, if you see on a per capita consumption, again, it is very low. So overall, I think the lifestyle and everything is much more efficient. At the same time, there is definitely scope for improving efficiency. There is even we see things like BEE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. They have now introduced ratings and other things. But that also what we are getting feedback from actual companies or even users is those are not considering the real-time operating conditions. And in some cases, you may be buying 5-star equipment by paying 20%, 30%, or even more price, but you are actually not getting those energy savings.
There is no ROI on
The
the-
differences are like completely like if you are to take a ceiling fan, the ceiling fan's rating has nothing to do with regulator. It is rated at just some fixed speed. And what people tell is like, okay, you take a 5-star ceiling fan and you are operating at 1 or 2 per rating, and you are actually consuming more than a 3-star fan. So those are the type of practicality is not, there is no education being done, and it is done more for sake of putting in something. On the other hand side, customer education, we see number of time where there are coffee shops or other customers who are using actually air conditioning almost 15, 16 hours per day, and they are using 2-star, 3-star ACs because that's the cheapest capex, or maybe the owner of the facility has put it because that's his lowest cost, whereas people at home are putting in 5-star ACs like myself, where I'm using it five hours in a year. So in Pune, so that's where I think there is a lot of education
But do
required
you,
on
first of all,
understanding.
question is, do you think it should be core to the energy planning of a country or not?
It should be core because again, generally, especially in country like India or any developing country, resources are short. So, but again, it needs to be at a right efficiency. I
I
don't
have
think
a tough
efficiency
question
has
coming to
just
this panel.
99.99 efficiency is a goal because it
I
always
agree
had
with
a
all
price
that.
point.
I agree with that. Okay. So, regulator, now as a regulator, I'm going to ask you, do you believe that it should be a part of the core value of energy going forward? Energy efficiency.
Yes, it should be.
Okay.
And as he said already,
And how much will you be allowing, if, okay, I'm going to now raise the bar here as I go.
yeah,
What do you think should be the price of that energy efficiency? That you will
Price?
allow? That you will allow?
you see, that is, monetization.
Huh.
Of course, you have to see the overall, your
Income.
total consumption, everything you have to see, and in individual paying capacity
Right.
also. But we are making in the regulations itself that you should go for the, rated this one, that one. So all those, and that, government has already appointed the nodal agencies for each state. So those reports we are getting. And
But
we
your
are asking-
HVAC is supposed to be the biggest issue that you're going to have in the urban area.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, next.
Just a clarification, right? So where do you see regulator coming into this particular?
Because the megawatts has got to be priced to the system somewhere. You see, somebody's got to pay for that incentive. In many cases, you are incentivized. I'll tell you how we get it. The cost of adding the cheapest diesel generation or whatever, let us say $750 per kilowatt. We find that energy efficiency generally is priced at $400, of which the government will contribute, let's say, $150 or $100. So there's an incentive for you to change everything to 5-star, assuming you value the 5-star.
You're talking the US or the Canadian
No,
example.
but this is true everywhere. Okay, the question is,
But that's taking a capacity value.
No, but
correct,
yes,
but
So the
even,
question is
even
right
on
now,
energy, there's a saving.
you've got distortions.
Right. Well, then I'll get to you because you see, if it is not, I'll tell you. If it is not, I'll tell you what is happening. Today we saw the pathway. It's add on the supply side.
Yeah, of course, that is there. And see, this we are talking about the demand side. And supply side already, this is there. Now you cannot put the subcritical technology coal-based plants in India now.
I'm talking only the demand side. I'm not getting into the
Demand side,
subcritical. Yes.
these are the restrictions. So those nodal agency has to come to the commission. They submit the plans, what they are doing, and they should synchronize with the distribution company.
Okay,
program.
no.
just a quick one line.
Yeah.
But I think again, fundamentally, we are just in a complete sort of at mismatch, right? As soon as you say that, oh, a residential customer or some class of customer should get a subsidized power, you are actually removing an incentive for him to go for
Go and do
efficient equipment because clearly, as soon as he has a cheap energy, the kind of margin he can pay for buying a efficient equipment is lower. So you are actually telling customers that don't worry about energy
Like
efficiency. you
agriculture
just-
pumps is a classic case.
Yeah.
And he sells all the
Delhi is a
energy
classic
efficient.
case.
Yes.
Anyway, your load shape and in fact your predecessor.
Yeah, end-use efficiency, we must not look at it at ROI basis, nothing, it's basically a duty towards the next generation. It should be looked at purely from that, and the moment we look into ROI, then we can get into any type of numbers. That's one thing. The second thing is, like, we are also the nodal agency for the PAC, registry. So there I was observing one thing, like on the thermal power side, when you want flexibility, then you will have to compromise partly on efficiency. So there's some gap, when we look at it from the supply side. So power plant thermal efficiency, it will go down if you want more flexible operation. That's one thing. But customer induced efficiency, appliance efficiency, it should be looked at from the overall, our duty towards the next generation.
So one quick question, again, the same question. So what would you be willing to price it as, even as a gut number to be given to these guys?
Price in
Price in either capacity or in energy. What level of benefit do you think will that energy efficiency bring such that you can then incentivize again a portion of that for a customer to go and purchase that equipment?
You are talking about supply chain again.
Only demand side. I'm not even bringing supply side here. India has got enough of supply side planning for the last 40, 50
There is
years.
a lot of scope, 10 to 20% straight away one could
Thanks,
say.
sir.
At monitoring, commission representative will be there. In each state.
Okay, now let us try to understand what is this problem, what we are facing today. The evening peak is very, very high. It is jumping. In cities, there are two major things. One is the lighting load, second is the AC load. Now, we have to control it, and the more and more we are switching over to the solar power, rooftop solar, that gap is further widening because day supply is very high. Evening there is no solar, so the gap is further widening, even if there is no demand increase, but the gap is further widening. So there is a tremendous need for cutting the demand during the evening, and that too, for which we should at least go for 30 to 40% price differences between the evening peak and the rest part of it, so that automatically people will be having incentivized to look for those things which just like LED. I will tell you, in the LED implementation in West Bengal itself, we have saved about 1,000 megawatt just by switching over to LED. Similarly, the moment you switch over to your air condition, mainly for the commercial, but the commercial, their consumption in the evening hours are not that high, but still, once you switch over to the air conditioning in a 5-star, really 5-star, I don't know what exactly the 5 stars are exactly, if they also cut down the energy consumption by 30%, then you can give incentive about 20%. So that will work, and that will save the burden of both the licensee and the regulator.
So the licensee is willing now to share.
He has
a little
to,
bit
because
of, no, I agree. At least notionally you are saying it's good
Yeah.
to share the value.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay. Singh sir.
Now, efficiency definitely is essential. Buying or replacing existing equipment by the efficient equipment, there is a cost. Now, Delhi, we had considered it, I think about 6 years back. Then we had worked on the pricing, that if somebody consumer is having a 2-star or 3-star air conditioner and he has to upgrade to 5-star, what is the price differential? And if he changes, how much rebate we can offer? And we had listed out how much rebate depending on whether it is a window AC or split AC or inverter AC. This much will be the amount which the DISCOM will pay them back, which will allow them a pass through as a ARR, as a revenue requirement in tariff fixation. 5,000, 6,000, some different slabs were fixed.
10 crores was given.
It was given as a sample test case.
In
Which
Delhi.
is exactly the US.
In Delhi. In Delhi.
Yeah, in Delhi it was given.
Okay.
That you replace these air conditioners. There was precondition
Energy
that
efficient devices.
energy efficient devices, and the old air conditioner has to be disposed of in an environment friendly way. It should not find a recycle market. That was a precondition.
market.
We actually take it away from the utility
Yes.
and then we have it
So
destroyed.
that was the condition.
Okay.
And it was implemented. Afterwards, I think it is no more extended, but
No longer.
it was not extended, but we continued for almost 3-4
So
years.
you did price it. So you did price
We
it as a
did.
part of incentive.
But the main issue remains is, and the costing was basically that considering a life of air conditioner as a 5 years, not more than that, because after that, that 5-star will itself not remain 5. So he must get some benefit in the cost of power saving as well as this rebate added together to total will be saving. And we had found that even this 6,000 rupees per air conditioner you were offering them as a pass-through is actually their cost of saving in power procurement cost. So actually no other consumer is getting burdened with that. So we had made total calculations up to each consumer level, actually how it will be. So that is what we had done. And it was
It was
implemented.
good. It's good that you had it. Okay.
But the main issue still remains is whatever star rating you give, 1 star, 2 star, 5 star. If for a vehicle, we say that from this date onwards, BS6, nothing less than can be sold. Why we can't say that from this date onwards, nothing less than 5 star will
Which
be
is
sold?
what we have done. And there is no less than 3 stars ever allowed on the market in fact.
Why 3 star? You say
No, I'm
5
just
star.
saying, 5 star or whatever the thing is, you ban it from that year on and
That's
say it
nothing.
cannot be sold.
But it's not there.
So you can still get 1 star, is it? in
That's
Delhi?
you still said.
Like Dubai,
That's the issue.
Dubai will have that.
That's the
Dubai
issue.
1 star.
You can get no star.
You can get anything. You can get assembled AC.
But
So what I'm saying is that
Okay, I got your point.
this is one policy issue. Second is that the consumer doesn't know that I have purchased a 5 star AC. Is it really working as a 5 star? Whether we can have an indicator on it, maybe a ammeter showing that how much current it is drawing, so that I know that yes, it is working in this range is a 5 star rating, working in this range is a 4 star rating. Whether I need to service it, whether I need to change it, whatever I want to do, that is another modification which is required in the air conditioning. Thank you.
After I ask him all the tough questions, I have a few suggestions. Okay.
Can I look at the larger picture?
Right.
Why do we look for efficiency? That's the basic question. Why
Because
do
your supply rate of supply additions can actually be tailor-made, number one, can be lower. Second, your value of renewables, when it runs loads the way it runs yesterday's loads, is why you are not able to manage, in fact, the loads today.
reduce carbon footprint.
That-
No, not carbon
I-
footprint.
I-
No, uski. I'm coming to pure operational issues.
Right.
Today, with a heat pump, I can take a 2 kilowatt air conditioner, reduce it to 400 watts. I now run my solar air conditioner on a solar.
Why do we need why do we look for lesser infrastructure?
It's because otherwise you're burning supply side.
So that's exactly what he's
Yes,
saying.
carbon-
Everything relates to only emissions.
No, or capex, right? You're adding
No,
capex.
capex also is related to emissions because you manufacture more, so you again burn something to.
Okay,
no,
I agree.
So let me just suppose there was no emissions at all for energy that you generate. Suppose it's 100% renewables. Not a single thing. Manufacturing is also takes place through renewables.
Right.
There's no emissions.
Yeah.
Then where is the incentive to go for efficiency?
I'll tell you why we
Yeah.
have. There are provinces that are 94% green energy in Canada. Country as a whole is 72% green energy, non-emitting. Yet we are one of the leading jurisdictions of energy efficiency. Why? Because in 22 years, our load growth has not been more than 2%, whereas the GDP has grown by 3 to 4%. So there is a net benefit as instead of where I'm making this observation.
No. Where is the benefit? Where is the benefit?
The
suppose
benefit
you,
is
suppose
there
you
is-
are suppose you are 100% renewables.
Let us say I'm 100%. I still have a capex on the supply side. I'm avoiding that capex.
The capex on the supply sides, so that actually gives manufacturing industry a boost.
Pankaj, can I
Just
give you?
just a minute.
Incremental
But-
capital output ratio is highest when you go in for energy efficiency.
See, I'm talking from
I'm
the
talking as an economist.
I'm talking from the system point of view. Nobody loses if there's no emissions.
No,
I'm
there
not
is
saying
no
one
loss,
second. No, you're saying let's not manufacture more.
Yeah.
No, let's not manufacture more. Then you're actually giving you're kicking the people who are in the manufacturing side.
Yeah, I'm not even getting there.
No, so,
I'm not even getting there.
anyway, I'm just telling you.
All I'm
that's
trying
the-
to
that's the
answer you
basic
is it
reason.
is not a fossil answer. It is a I'll tell you this business of India adding capacity for the last 40 years. In my view, it did not need to add that much of capacity if it concentrated on energy efficiency for the last 20 years.
Right. So why do we not?
No, it will add up. I'll tell
Why
you,
do we
because
not-
country after country have gone and done that, and it has given them value.
Why do we not need to add capacity? Okay.
Standard acid goes out.
Okay. No. So systemic. I'm saying. Yeah, I'm talking from the systemic thing. Okay. So you want to be more efficient, right? So you see the total system cost of you.
Right? Whatever.
Not only it should not be burdening only the customer or the government or his thing. All that has to be balanced to see that we overall achieve efficiency. So saying about how much 20% or 30% or 10% would depend on the total system cost on how equitable the sharing is between the government and the person. So I don't think I'd like to take a just figure like this and say it should be 20% or something. I'm saying that let it be done equitably. If it could be 10%, could be 30%. And the ultimate aim, according to me, is to see that emissions are reduced. And if you reduce it to zero, you can't reduce it below that. So I'm saying if you achieve that, I don't think anything matters after that.
Okay, good. It's your view.
Now, when you talk about energy efficiencies, and having lived in the Middle East for some time, and if you know, I mean, they don't care about what energy efficiency is about. I mean, any of those countries. So we really feel bad actually when you see that the kind of wastage happens. I mean, all
They run air conditioners on open cycle in the lawn. Okay, when you have parties. Okay, but that's a separate issue.
So energy efficiency, I mean, I completely agree with Rahul's point that the consumer awareness is very, very important in India. It's very, I mean, the other day my dad went to buy a fridge. I mean, so he told me, what should I buy? So when we went to the 5-star rating, the shop owner, so the seller, he's saying, why do you need to buy? He's telling them, and then he called me from the shop, he's saying, why did you recommend this model? He's suggesting a different model. I said, no, this is, so that's the kind of level we are here. So he can get more money by selling that, but he still don't want to sell it. So, so that's the point.
His margins may be lower.
I'm going to take a slightly different track, as I always do. The fact is, energy efficiency is the need of the hour, irrespective. Just as increasing productivity is the need of the hour for all of us, or cost effectiveness, look at it whatever way increasing. The point is, what can government do, what can a regulator do, and what can an individual consumer do? And everything eventually is put at the footstep of the consumer. Why? One of the largest energy consumers in India today is agricultural pumping. What is the government of India doing about that? What are the various states doing about that? Zilch. Zilch. No, they are now thinking of solar pump, but
Investment cost is very high.
but I know, but what are they doing about the pumps of BJP, the pumps of all the agricultural water supply and the sewage movement run at 25 to 30% efficiency. There is no plan or talk of changing that. The moment you do that, you are going to save at least 10,000 megawatts. Second, a lot of the MSMEs use all outdated blades and all equipment. There is an MSME industry and a ministry. Nothing is ever talked about energy efficiency in those directives. Nothing ever. It's only about minuscule financing. Why not? Why aren't they talking about it? Third comes energy efficiency at the municipal corporation level, and there the government, or rather the municipal corporations, have done admirable tasks, at least on public lighting, but not enough. All the ministries, all the government offices are still using outdated, inefficient air conditioners. Why can't government make an example by changing over things themselves?
The government is an opportunity that somebody like Reliance can step up and help them save money.
No, we've done that. I'm only saying, let them take the onus of responsibility on themselves. We work with ERC to bring about demand-side management and energy efficiency incentives available. For a large part, we work with BEE in getting efficient ACs, BE certified, fans BE certified, lighting, I told you, we've done all of it by ourselves without burdening the consumer. Saurabh set it in motion in EESL. It arose out of them. We helped them in setting it up, we helped them in maintaining it, everything. And today it is now the talk of the country. But it has saved so much immense electricity. There are similar such examples all over. Yeah, street lights started changing all over. Calcutta is a beautiful example of how beautiful electricity can be.
We have given a reward tariff for the street light if you switch off your
So it's a mindset.
You are saving the power first. Anywhere you are saving the cost of the power. Also, at a lower tariff.
So if ESL then rolls out an HVAC program,
Yes.
you are saying it should be.
They have. ESL has an HVAC program. there are so many programs which are available for industry or for domestic or commercial consumers. But these are eventually single point driven, which means either I have to go for it or the industry which I am working in. But I am talking of large institutional compliance, Delhi government, Government of India, DERC, I am talking about these are not within our purview. We can supply them power, but at the end of the day, they have to change.
Good point.
Well, about the
I go to Saudi Arabia these days, your old territory, and I'll tell you a different story.
Okay.
But anyway.
about the energy efficiency, we look at in two different ways. One is the supply side, and we manage at 9.8 losses. So I think we are saving whatever the energy within the supply side. And also, we have built in our tariff in such a way that energy efficiency naturally happens. So much so that if a high-end consumer, if about 200 units or more than that, if somebody uses, he pays 36 rupees per kilowatt hour. Whereas the small one who is using less than 30 pays 250. So there's a huge difference in the step tariff. Therefore, naturally, people don't waste, because if you go to the next block, it is huge. You automatically get the penalty, because the top end people pay 36, whereas the normal people pay 0 to 30, 250. And if you really look at 6.4 million customers of Sri Lanka, 1.2 million customers use less than 30. And another 1.5 million users, totaling to 3 million users less than 60 units. That means they save energy. If they don't save energy, they cannot be in that region. That is, half of our customers use less than 60 kilowatt hours. So that is a very good thing because of the block tariff. And also block tariff encourages solar, because people wanted to go for solar because otherwise they have to pay 36 rupees per kilowatt hour on the high block. So all high block people will go to that side. On the industrial side, that is again built to the tariff, and our KVA charges are very high. So when the KVA charge is high, naturally they try to reduce the peak demand of their industries. So I think we have done a lot through the tariff. It's a natural thing, and the country is, I think, energy efficient. And also we have a demand side management unit within our organization. So they do various programs, awareness programs and distributing of LEDs. LED we give a loan scheme now.
Even in the way of the EESL program, they put it through the
So
bill.
that program is now going on. So likewise, demand side management branch does a lot of work to give various concessions and awareness programs and things like that. I think when you look at the total picture of the electricity, I think it's energy is quite saved, I think, especially because of tariff.
Quickly, just
First, yes, no, and then what? You support it or you don't support it?
No,
and
I
then
support it. The question is, are we doing it? The answer is not really.
Okay.
First is we need to move from an energy efficiency in old measures to energy productivity. Because Delhi airport is very low energy per square meter. But per passenger, it's high. It's a badly designed airport in terms of square footage, which is a different story of CISF's mess, that you have 2 floors, 1 entry, 1 exit, and all of that sort of crap. Second, to your point, I'm not sure we need to go down that, we just should. Mandates are useful when the market fails. But let's not assume the market fails, because we haven't even given the market a fair shake, which is what Rahul's point was, we're not setting the pricing signaling right. If I signal both true prices and externalities, then the market will figure out what makes sense. Now that's almost coming to Pankaj's point, that if it were green power and cheap enough, then who really cares how much you, that's an equilibrium that may get discovered. But we're not there yet, so we've got miles to go before we can end it. This is why we wrote the LED bulb story globally. BLDC is a struggle for fans, because you don't have the global wave for fans. So that is why we're behind. Last point, the fundamental gap. So there are failures. One is awareness. One is availability. industry has utterly failed consumers to get stuff that they need that's energy efficient because they treat 5-star as premium. It's anyways expensive, so I'm going to throw a wine rack into the 5-star fridge. I want a basic, small-sized 5-star fridge, and I have not been able to find it. Last, related to this is, we get hung up with BEE, appliances, even HVAC. Energy is way more than that. It is housing, it is urban design, dwarfs all of these, buildings and transport. And this is where we have jurisdictional problems and agency effect split incentive. Builder will put up crap that is cheap to build, fast to sell, and looks good because he or she is not paying the OPEX of a place. And even all of these things of green building code, you've had a green building code for how many years? And one state has issued a draft implementation schedule for it. And so the gap is between good intentions. Nobody's against energy efficiency, and we're trying. We're just using the wrong instruments, and we're not putting enough heft into it, which comes to your point. Like we did for BS6, I would rather we do it for buildings even before we did it for some of the other stuff. But buildings, as we all know, relates to construction and land, which is one of the most cesspools of oversight and regulation and so forth.
Martin, your quick word.
Sorry for being pessimistic.
In addition to product efficiency, system efficiency is very important.
In a way, it works that way. I know you're bringing that. It ultimately brings to your question. It is, if it was not system efficient, why would you give a rebate or an incentive or something, right?
What he's saying is not on a product, or AC, but building as a whole. About building efficiency.
We have a green building code.
Yeah, so I'm talking about a bigger thing. You may not require, yeah, of course, every product to be efficient, but we look at system efficiency, which should also be seen.
Martin, your last word, and then I'll get the chair to.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure we are defining the problem correctly, because I fully agree with the Canadian example. I've seen the numbers for California, which indicate the same, that you can mitigate load growth to some extent by those energy efficient measures. But looking at in particular the new role of distribution company, in India, is it legal for you to offer energy outsourcing? Because it is those kind of services, say ESCO services that you go to.
Yes.
So you could, for example, bid for the Delhi government, say we take over all of your buildings and we guarantee you.
No, only if my articles of association allow it. Otherwise, I can always get an ESCO to bid alongside me.
So that you would use that.
So it'll be a non-regulated part of his business.
It is a non-regulated part of it.
Because for me, that's what I see in some utilities trying to get new revenue streams with the old one under pressure. And if you have a way to make money, and I think that it comes to who is the most benefit, which are the biggest saving opportunities.
Yeah,
so then
that we are allowed. In fact, DSCS managed the distribution utility of Ethiopia for 2.5 years. It gave a lot of support to utilities in Nigeria to bid for the Nigeria privatization, for the Kenya privatization. So, and even in we gave technical know-how to Haryana State Electricity Board. And all this is within the knowledge of the regulator.
And so this opportunity, and why I mention that is, I don't know in India, but like in Manila, 50% of people in Manila cannot afford an air conditioning. So to your point, what is the ratio of energy cost to income? Energy poverty in Australia was defined by AGL's chief economist as spending more than 10% disposable income on energy. You spend that much, then people say, "Whoa, it's really painful for me." For those consumers, though, they found that they have the least energy efficient devices, because they cannot. If they buy a fridge, they buy the cheapest fridge from whatever China. And so, if as an extension of the energy efficiency business, you were allowed to provide like washing machines per cycle, that
Nothing like that. I'll tell you. When energy is priced ridiculously low, lower than the cost of acquisition, there is no incentive for anybody down the line to change over to energy efficient devices. So they will buy the cheapest that is going around.
So it comes back to the pricing, having reasonable pricing.
Unless you ban it like in Quebec, right? It's only 4 cents because it's all hydroelectric. But you cannot
Yeah,
find
make
2
it
cents, 3
mandatory,
cents,
yes.
right? You have to only buy the highest end. So by law, that's all can be sold.
Yeah,
No manufacturer
Yeah, can sell anything lower than that.
And the last point on energy efficiency, and it ties back a little bit to your solar rooftop example, because when we look at who is the beneficiary, is the highest end of customers. The customers which, the pool pump that we are talking about, the customer with a nice roof, the private homes, but those are not the low-end customers who are living in multi-story, low-end apartments. How can they benefit from this? So if we have like community solar or community storage, are those ways to help them also benefit from those new technologies? So that as a way, as an ESCO model or an energy services model where as a distribution company, I shift my business away from selling electricity, being incentivized to sell, to lowering overall cost for the energy and being paid a management fee. So like IT outsourcing.
Solar are not there, but there are some franchises which are, serving the isolated areas where grid supply is not there. So whatever cost is there, they will manage within that, and tariff is decided by their own franchise itself.
In the large cities is not so.
This man's giving me dirty looks. No. Yeah. So, no, 5:30 I said it's already 5:40. So,
Let me just
yeah.
add a supplement. The Delhi solar policy allows community solar. Yeah. So it says it's called virtual metering. I think. So where if you don't have a rooftop also, you can combine with somebody else and you can own a share of it. There is a regulation for it.
So first of all, I have to thank you all. I'm going to get the chairman to conclude and provide his inputs as the Global Smart Grid Forum. We are looking for places to see who has done how different, and to share those experiences. So in a way, today we're very pleased that the Sri Lankan model seems to have worked. Although their purchasing price parity may not be no different in many countries in this area. So, it seems to have worked. So that's one, so we'll call on you for that. The place where you're sitting, there was an energy storage person. So we have agreed to tap him for that. The rest of you will have to come on a case by case because seems to be a lack of consensus. So we'll come on a case by case basis to see what should be done within India, whether it's DR, I took 3, DR, customer enablement, and community, or the last mile, if you will, right? As opposed to leaving the supply side options. India does enough, I think, on the supply side. And transmission also is pretty good. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll let you conclude.
You put all the regulators on a tough spot, so I'll maybe suggest one thing for you guys. I think you are, rather than just focusing on what to do, if you can, since you have heard so many things, right? Maybe you can anonymize the data and can you do something what not to do?
We can if somebody gives us the data, but remember, they're all tribunals by law, so in a way, getting these folks to agree can also be a big problem.
Not just the latest regulator. I'm just saying, based on what you do,
Yeah, like, the discussion we've had with CERC, right? Did it go anywhere that day? It didn't go anywhere. The right to disconnect power and load shedding was considered the lowest cost option. That was a discussion. So anyway, I'm just telling you, right? So fundamentally, they are tribunals, they are courts of law. What can you tell a judge? So they have to tell us. They have to tell us.
The Electricity Act says that the government can give policy direction
Correct.
to the regulator. But whether it's a matter of policy or not, that also the government will decide. So in effect, the government can say everything what the regulator does is a policy matter and give all directions and they won't have anything to do.
Except tariff. It's very clearly mentioned. Not
And also they can say that we price the industrial customer higher than that.
they cannot.
Anyway,
Go in for prepaid metering, and no regulator will allow me to cut off the data.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. This is a very,
remember the chairman of the Global Smart Grid Federation is India these days.
yeah, I think there is a lot of there are a lot of takeaways from our discussion today. I will not. Well, I'm not going even to try to conclude, give my conclusion, because there are so many things that we have to consider. I believe our Nautilus will have that in written, so we can bring that in our Global Smart Grid Federation meetings. And probably one that I note for is it seems that there is a gap between planning as well as against the implementation in a regional India, perhaps even in globally. When we try to give our reasons to like IRENA, IEA, etc., there seems to be a lot of gap in information and data, and there are a lot of information which make me scratch my head. Like when Sri Lanka says they got $6 for gas, and Indonesia is producers of LNG, and I got $11 per MMBTU at plant gate. There seems to be something wrong. So again, thank you very much for all the participation on this discussion, and with this I declare that the meeting is over.
No. Ashima, I hope the video is not a public video. Even if you did take every second of it, it should be kept within ISG. Okay? Yeah. Because very interesting discussion. You see, whether it was solvable or not is separate. Whether it is God solvable or human solvable is also separate. But the notion that we had these problems and others have solved it in a different way, itself is a learning, right? It's learning for all of us. So I think this was great. It was very good idea. Yeah. And all the logic behind Correct. Yeah. Correct. Thank you, sir. Thank you all. Yeah. To all of you.
So I would like to thank all the speakers to join us for this discussion, and I would request Mr. Eddie Vidiono to facilitate all the speakers for this discussion. So, Mr. Arvind Jadhav, kindly present a token of thanks to Mr. I.A. Khan, please. Mr. S.R. Narsimha. Mr. B.P. Singh. Mr. Rohan Seneviratne.
That's the first time.
Yes. So the energy policy is right. Entire.
Mr. Pankaj Batra.
You are based in Canada.
Mr. Gopal Saxena.
Very good to have.
Mr. Rahul Tongia.
The other Rahul. You are part of it.
Mr. Martin Hosk. Mr. Arindam Ghosh. Mr. Rahul Wala Walker. And Mr. Ravi Sitapati. Yeah, Mr. Ravi Sitapati will be facilitating the chair.
He is the provocateur.
This is for you now.
Oh, no. As long as it's not the same one.
You never know, with Reggie it could be.